of interconnected crises, threatening international peace and stability, economic stability and sustainable development, including wars in the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. Prolonged and brutal foreign occupation, resurgent fascism, great power rivalries, and renewed global arms race, the increasing weaponization of cyberspace and outer space, and new and destructive technologies. Mr. President, the continued inequalities of the global financial system have further aggravated today's crisis. The very fabric of the world order established under the UN Charter is in danger of being torn apart unless timely reforms and corrective actions are not undertaken. Mr. President, under the visionary leadership of President Xi Jinping, China is working actively to address the multi-pronged mixed crisis the world faces today. We, the United Nations member states, are all in the same boat. We must help each other to avoid the threat of a global war, the use of nuclear weapons, the issues of poverty, the existential threat of climate change. In the Pact for the Future, adopted last year, our leaders have reaffirmed their collective determination to respond to these challenges. We must translate these commitments into actions. It is clear that these complex and interlinked challenges can only be addressed through a renewed recourse to the multilateralism based on the universal and consistent adherence to the fundamental principles of the UN Charter, self-determination of peoples, non-use of threat force, non-acquisition of territory but the use of force, respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all states, non-interference in their internal affairs, and pacific settlement of disputes. Mr. President, nowhere is our failure to uphold the Charter and its principles more evident than in the ongoing tragedy in Palestine, in the vicious military aggression in Gaza, the mass killings of civilians, mostly women and children, in the systematic violations of fundamental human rights, international law, and international humanitarian law. Mr. President, after witnessing 15 months of unimaginable suffering in Gaza, the ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel announced on 15th of January 2025 offers a glimmer of hope. Pakistan welcomes this agreement and commends the mediation efforts of Egypt, Qatar, and the United States. We hope that all stages of the agreement will be fully implemented, leading to a permanent ceasefire and an inclusive political process towards a two-state solution. This remains the only viable framework for durable peace between Israel and the Palestinians and the Arab and the Muslim world. We call for urgent and adequate humanitarian assistance to the people of Gaza. The role of UNRWA is critical in this context. We also look forward to the earliest reconstruction of Gaza. We oppose any displacement of the Palestinian people from their homeland. Mr. President, the Jammu and Kashmir dispute is another open wound and an ever-present threat to international peace and security. For almost 8 decades, the same life of the UN, the people of Jammu and Kashmir have confronted brutal foreign occupation and been denied their right to self-determination as prescribed by multiple UN Security Council resolutions. The Security Council has an enduring responsibility to ensure the implementation of its own resolutions. Pakistan will continue to work for a peaceful resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute in accordance with the UN Charter and relevant Security Council resolutions. Mr. President, a peaceful and stable Afghanistan is essential for regional and global security. Pakistan continues to face cross-border terrorist attacks, especially by the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan from Afghan soil. Pakistan remains determined to take all necessary measures to counter these threats. The IAG must take decisive action to prevent terrorism within and from Afghanistan. Despite the cross-border terrorism, Pakistan will continue its engagement with the interim government in Kabul, facilitate humanitarian support to the millions of destitute people in Afghanistan, and support Afghanistan's economic and social development. Mr. President, terrorism remains a global threat. Pakistan has been at the forefront of the fight against terrorism, sacrificing thousands of lives to dismantle terrorist networks and prevent the spread of extremism. All terrorist groups, be it Daesh, Al-Qaeda, TTP, ETM, IMU, and emerging right-wing extremist group, must be opposed with equal determination. Double standards must be rejected, nor should counterterrorism provide a pretext to surpass the legitimate struggles of peoples for self-determination. Mr. President, the United Nations and its family of organizations provide the indispensable platforms to respond to the world's multidimensional challenges. So far, the United Nations has not been enabled to achieve its full potential. The structures of the UN should be strengthened, not dismantled. This can be achieved through mutual respect and comprehensive cooperation. Mr. President, to address the challenges of the 21st century, we must reaffirm our commitment to multilateralism and undertake comprehensive reforms of the global governance architecture, refine and reinforce multilateralism to deliver optimum outcomes. No country should presume to have greater stature or influence on others. Respect for justice and equity is an essential precondition for peace and harmony among nations. To this end, Pakistan proposes the following. First, the Pact for the Future promises stronger international action for peace and security. Member states must fulfill their obligations under Article 25 of the Charter by implementing the Security Council's decisions. We must adopt a policy of zero tolerance for violations of the UN Charter. The Security Council should promote peaceful settlement of disputes, resolve and not merely manage conflicts. The Council should adopt a global confidence-building measures to prevent conflicts, ease tensions, and foster cooperation. Second, the UN Security Council must become more democratic, representative, and accountable. The small and medium states, which form the vast majority of the UN members, must be fully and adequately represented on the Security Council. Adding new permanent members would violate the principle of sovereignty and sovereign equality, make the Council even less representative, and exacerbate the prospects of paralysis in the Security Council. Third, the General Assembly, as world's most representative body, must play a greater role in global decision-making. Its mandates and resolution must be respected, and its effectiveness and efficiency enhanced. Fourth, global financial and economic governance must be made more equitable and democratic. The current system is unjust, favoring the rich while trapping developing nations in a cycle of poverty and debt. We call for reforms of the IMF and World Bank to ensure adequate and concessional development financing, debt relief, and allocation of special drawing rights. Fifth and last, the rapid advancement of science and technology, especially artificial intelligence, poses new challenges. International regulations are urgently needed to ensure these technologies serve peaceful and beneficial purposes and do not deepen global inequalities and do not intensify the threats to peace and security. Mr. President, the world order envisioned in the UN Charter must be strengthened. A just, peaceful, and prosperous world requires a strong, effective, and truly representative multilateral system, one that upholds the UN.
नाज़रीन, नायब वज़ीर आज़म मोहम्मद इसहाक डार न्यूयॉर्क में अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा की सलामती काउंसिल के इजलास से खिताब कर रहे थे। उन्होंने चीन की सलामती काउंसिल के अहम इजलास की सदारत करने पर उसको खुशाइन करार दिया और कहा कि पाकिस्तान